Welcome to the 30/30 Health Podcast. The following discussion is for education and entertainment. It is not intended to diagnose or treat disease. Please do not apply any of this information without first discussing it with your doctor. Here is your host, Dr. Ruiz.
Hello everyone, my guest today needs no introduction. My guest today is Darryl Edwards. He is a movement coach, TEDx speaker, and thought leader in the area of creativity and innovation in fitness and health. Darryl developed the Primal Play Method to inspire others to make physical activity fun while getting healthier, fitter, and stronger in the process. Did you hear that AHS is right around the corner? For the next couple of weeks, I will be interviewing some of the presenters and board members of AHS live on the Ancestral Health Society Facebook page. So tune in and learn more about this amazing conference. Before we begin this interview, let's hear a word from our sponsor, Integrative Health. I hope you enjoyed the show.
Hey there, Dr. Alan Christensen here with you. I'd love to take just a moment and tell you about our Thyroid Advisor program. So what is the Thyroid Advisor visit? Well, imagine that one of your closest friends happened to be a thyroid doctor and that they understood the conventional, the naturopathic, and all the functional approaches. They just wanted you to feel better and they were happy to video chat whenever you needed them. So that's basically it. Just click the link to set up a time and the IH docs are happy to help out today.
Hello everyone, super excited to be here with my friend, one of the first people in this health space to actually bring me under his wing and show me the ropes and kind of introduce me to other cool people and, just one of the coolest guys, Darryl Edwards. Darryl, how are you, dude?
I'm feeling fantastic. It's a pleasure to be back. As you said earlier, it's been almost a year.
Yeah.
So it's incredible.
You are my first three-peat, three times on the show. It's probably because you're the only one that comes to the show. That's the real reason. No one else wants to slum it in the 30/30 Health Podcast. But no, seriously, it's just you. Every time we speak, we've had you. The first time, it was episode 2, and I was like, hey, I'm going to start a podcast. Would you mind, and it was like, sure, mate, let's do this. And, we came in and, you did it. And then your book, Animal Moves, came up. And I was like, you know what? This dude helped me launch my podcast. I'm going to try to help him, make this the most successful launch. And man, you've been killing it with it. So, we usually start my show with your hero story. And you've been here 3 times, but I still want you to do a super fast hero story. And then we're going to talk about something that you did that was super fucking amazing. So, Darryl, what's your hero story in abbreviated Cliff Notes version?
So basically worked in the corporate world, investment banking, technology, got really sick. I was very sedentary, eating a poor diet, pretty much at my desk. Almost 24/7. If that was possible, that's what would have happened. I had some annual health checks. I was told I was pre-diabetic. I had a very high risk of cardiovascular disease or cardiovascular disease event. I had very high blood pressure, severe hypertension. I was anemic. I was suffering from low back pain. And I didn't want to take a cocktail of meds that were prescribed by my doctor. So I didn't want to take statins. I didn't want to take metformin for my blood sugars. I didn't want to take beta blockers for my blood pressure, et cetera, et cetera. And I decided to join a gym to get fitter and healthier. I changed my diet, and fast forwarding on, probably more than 15 years now, I'm now working in the health and well-being space. I'm most passionate about movement out of all of the pillars of health. And I'm even more passionate about making movement fun, playful, and engaging. So Primal Play is what I'm the founder of. And my last book was called Animal Moves.
Yeah, and super cool concepts that you bring to the table. When we go to a conference, we're at just the Paleo Effects, we're going to be at AHS coming up. You host movement sessions. And those are some of the most popular talks that happen at those events.
Yeah, well, I suppose I just recognize that exercise, even in a health space, even in a very forward-thinking, healthy-looking community, exercise can be the thing that can be put to the back of the queue. So, let's sort out our diet, let's sort out some supplementation, let's try and rectify some of the wrongs, and then maybe if we get better, then we can start thinking about getting active. So, if people are thinking about what they can do to make activity slightly more appetizing, then making it fun, making it engaging is one way of doing so. So that's what I suggest as a solution to people not feeling that comfortable about starting a movement regimen.
And I love what you said there, how a supplement or a diet or something like that, things that you can buy, things that you can, you can't buy exercise.
Yeah, exactly. You can outsource quite a lot of the kind of a health or well-being improvement. A lot of that can be outsourced. A lot of it can be, you can seek out shortcuts. You can seek out optimizations of a particular pathway. But with exercise, with movement, you have to do it yourself. There's no way around it. There is no substitute for taking part in movement. And so I understand why people tend to talk about it or spectate it far more than doing it. We have problems. We struggle with all lifestyle change is difficult. None of this is necessarily easy to do. But I can buy a meal with optimized all the macronutrients that I need, avoiding the foods that cause me problems. I can seek advice that can tell me exactly what to do. I can get somebody to cook it for me. I can get it delivered to my home. I could probably pay somebody to serve it to me. And all I would have to do is to chew it. And even if I don't want to chew, I can probably put it into a blender and take it in liquid form. So I can make it as convenient and as easy as possible for me to take on board some really good nutrition. With movement, there is no way for me to fast track what I need to do to be able to obtain the benefits of physical activity. So if you can make it more appetizing by making it playful, by making it joyful, by focusing on the fun, by focusing on the movements that we were naturally designed to take part in, then that's one way of getting there. That's one way of solving and tackling this problem.
And I'm totally guilty about that because Dan Party, mutual friend, he challenged me this month to a step contest to see how many steps we could put in, and I lift weights, I'm very conscious about what I eat. I track all of these things, but I had not paid attention to my step count. And, I see patients and a lot of my time is sitting down at the office. Guess how many steps I was averaging per day?
The way you've phrased that question, I'm going to be very conservative. So I'm going to say 2,500.
Yeah, I was about 4,000 by the end of the day.
Okay, so yeah, well, higher than I said.
I don't like walking. I enjoy lifting weights, and if I'm going to put movement, I want to do something where like I'm actually either running or something that is a little bit more dopamine inducing,
Yeah.
And it's funny because the way the challenge is designed, we're tracking with our smart watches or whatever, and the smartwatch notices if I'm running, and that does not count as steps. It has to be steps. So I have to force myself to go out on walks to hit an adequate number. And I don't want to get beat by Dan, So, and I hate it. Now I'm going to be doing it for the rest of the month because I'm really competitive, but I just don't enjoy it. I don't, but it's so important in movement. It's part of health, and you have to put in those steps and you have to move. And that is a separate category from exercise.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, movement is the kind of larger umbrella of physical activity, of exercise, training, all those other kind of subcategories, some components of movement in the broadest sense. And if you consider movement from the most gentle and insignificant of movements, like the blink of an eye, for example, that's movement. You know, your lungs moving as you breathe, that's movement. So it's not enough just to say movement, because movement could be minimal, you know, sloth-like movement patterns that we could be engaging in and feel pretty good about that. There has to be a certain quantity and quality of movement of various categories, components of movement, in order to satisfy what our body needs. And so walking is one of those. We are, if we believe we're hunter-gatherers, you know, or the ancestors of hunter-gatherers, and we're trying to take the best of what they did in the past to inform what we do today in the present, then walking was the most efficient and essential movement pattern for nomadic hunter-gatherers. That's what we did. Significant part of our day would be walking, and it wouldn't be, you know, 4,000 steps a day, as I'm sure you're aware. So the Hadza, you know, current modern day observation, they walk about 14 times as much as the average Western individual. So a significant amount of walking, but there's lots of other activities as well. So walking should be the predominant locomotion for humans. That's what it should be. And if you hate it, then try to find ways of making it a little bit more fun, I suppose, is one way of looking at it. You know, find a location that you really enjoy being out in nature. You know, walk with a colleague and have a really good discussion. Have a walking meeting, for example. You know, discuss research instead of sitting down and having a discussion about a case, about a patient. Go for a walk. So that there are ways to almost distract yourself from the monotony. In your case, it's like, oh my gosh, I've got to go for yourself a walk. I'm only doing this because I want to beat Dan, and I don't want to lose to Dan. But actually, if you make it an integrative part of your life, then walking is just the sort of byproduct of the other task. Say if you are having a walking meeting, for example. So that's what I would suggest as a kind of a hint to hopefully make it a bit easier for you.
So what I've been doing is I'm taking my dog for walks, you know, and down here in Arizona, you know, we're hitting the hundreds, and so I'm doing it, you know, towards the end of the night, and I figured that if I do like a hill or or like a terrain that is a little bit more interesting than just a straight path, I find it a little bit more entertaining. So I've been doing, you know, like 2.5 miles at night with my dog, and, you know, she's pretty happy to be with me, and I'm pretty happy to put in the steps. So that's what I'm doing.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's what I've found that, you know, is like the best way. But one of these days, it was getting late, you know, and I hadn't put my miles. So I went and jumped on a treadmill and I started walking. And man, it was the most boring, horrible thing that I've put myself through in a while.
Yeah, well, I certainly, walking on a treadmill, certainly for me, is not it's not something that I would like to do, even in a competitive environment. It's not, obviously it's not nature's way of walking, right? It's just a way of us getting a walking pattern, a walking gait in a stationary environment, so we can't leave this environment. So treadmills are a great way for us to be more active than we otherwise would be indoors. But of course, being in nature would be the preferred way. But where you are, as you say, you know, it can be quite hostile.
Yeah.
At certain times of day, certain times of the year. But, you know, just try to find ways of making it more convenient for you to be able to get those walking opportunities in. So, you know, as you say, walking your dog, you know, 2.5 miles, that's going to be some pretty decent steps being done. just walking your dog.
Yeah,
you know?
and then you're going up hills and down hills and, pretty crazy terrain. So it's just so much more enjoyable. So we had a couple of discussions about devices, about smart devices. And you have some pretty, I don't want to say controversial, but interesting views. Can you tell my listeners how you feel about the, like the Apple Watch and the Fitbit and things like that?
Yeah, so I mean, I own. I used to work in tech. I used to work for Microsoft back in the 90s. I'm a geek. I'm a bit of a nerd. I do love tech. I do love gadgets, and I do own an Apple Watch. Okay, so however, I do recognize that most people who own a tech device to track and monitor a healthy lifestyle behaviors, including being more physically active, it tends to be a short-term blip in terms of modifying their behavior. So there's lots of enthusiasm, or there's enthusiasm because there's a challenge on, or there's enthusiasm because they're being told to observe, okay, hey, let's see how active you are this month. Let's see how active you are in the last few days. So when there's some kind of comparison, almost like a peer review of how active are we as a group, let's have a challenge at work. Let's see who can walk the most this month, for example. Those things tend to work for the very short term, but they don't modify behavior in the long term. And the research actually tells us this. So this isn't just my opinion. So 50% of people who buy an activity tracker, whether it's a Fitbit, whether it's an Apple Watch, whatever, pedometer, will fail to use them. They buy them, they try them on, and then they put them in a cupboard somewhere, never to be seen again. The 50% who do decide to use them, there's a significant drop-off of utilization after about 3 months. So I think it's another 33% who will use it for a couple of months or so and then go, oh, enough of this. Then you have the hardcore who will just be waiting for the next device. So that device won't be good enough, and they'll be waiting for the next device. So only a handful of people will maintain long-term utilization of those devices. And usually those people are ones that would be moving anyway. So it's not usually because they go, oh, only since I bought this device did I actually start walking and continue to walk, and now it's become a habit. So technology is not a long-term solution when it comes to modifying positive lifestyle change. And the reason I say this, just to kind of end this, is because we usually utilize technology for convenience, to save on labor, to make things easy for ourselves. That's what we prize technology for. And so when you have technology kind of getting you for things to become less convenient for you, to do more work, there's a bit of a conflict. So our DNA wants convenience. Our DNA cherishes convenience. It cherishes conserving energy. So no number of notifications will completely change our mindset around being active in the long term. And in terms of recent history, Pokemon Go is probably the classic example. Pokemon Go is probably the largest number of teenagers and children being active because of a piece of technology. In recent years, there's lots of newspaper articles, the media are going crazy. Oh my goodness, kids are now walking miles and miles and miles chasing Pokemons. That lasted for about 6 months, a year at the most. Pokemon Go is now no longer, is it Pokemon Don't, right? Yeah. It's like Pokemon No More. So it would have been good to see if that could have been sustainable, but unfortunately it wasn't. The Nintendo Wii also wasn't. Exercise gaming, or exergaming as it used to be called, most consoles that release some form of activity tracker, like the Xbox had an Xbox Fitness, they stopped development, shut down the division, because people weren't using their consoles in that way. They were using them sitting down with a control pad. Anyway, I could talk about that forever, but I wouldn't say it's controversial. I would just say that it's the real world.
In when I got my Apple Watch, I did notice a couple of things. Like, for example, it has that stand notification that tells
Yes.
you, and I was not standing once per hour. I would go a couple of hours in a row, not standing, and that changed almost overnight. Because I didn't like looking at my watch and seeing that I didn't stand. And to this day, I still try to stand once an hour, but it didn't notify. I didn't notice. I wasn't looking at my steps. And I do exercise. When it's my frame of exercise. When I had scheduled the time for exercise, but I didn't notice that I was pretty sedentary. And hopefully, after this challenge with Dan, that will carry on. It's probably not going to be. I'm not going to be as active as I am right now because I am going out of my way to try to get more steps. But hopefully that sticks around and that becomes a habit rather than just this. Oh, it's just for the month of June, and trying to be, a jerk and beat them. but
yeah, and hopefully that will be the case. Hopefully there will be some transfer and some modification. Because you're aware, you're aware of the education, you're aware of the benefits of being more active. But, I would also say, like somebody like yourself, you're already a highly motivated individual who has a significant amount of education about the power of lifestyle to prevent, and to treat disease. So you've already got a significant head start. You can afford the technology. You're highly educated. You're now motivated because there's some competition here, and so you're the kind of individual who's more likely to benefit from this kind of technological and competitive prompt. But most people are outside of that sphere. Most people, will not maintain long-term change. 88% of New Year's resolutions fail by the 21st of January, right? So a lot of my New Year's resolutions actually failed on the 1st of January. I started great in the morning, and then by the end of the day, I'm like, so so even for myself, who's thinking about, hey, I want to live a healthy lifestyle, I want to demonstrate how it's possible to live in a particular way, I find it difficult. So I'm not anti-technology. I just think we need to think of better ways to use it and to exploit it so that it can support healthy behaviors. But as I say, technology tends to be used as a device to save us time, to save us labor. And so that's where I think most brain cells are currently being deployed. Most creativity is looking at how can we save ourselves time, money, labor. That's what technology should be best deployed with, not to get people to become healthier by notifications.
Buying a smartwatch is not going to make you lose weight.
No, it isn't. So yeah, it's a conundrum, and I would love tech to give us a way out of this. But
what do you think about like the? Have you ever seen the Peloton bikes?
I have, yes.
What do you think about things like that?
I have seen those. I just think I think it's another short term. It's just another blip on the horizon of what we see as being progress. So it's like now, wow, just imagine I can now, in the comfort of my home, I can virtually cycle anywhere. I could have the best access to the best instructors. I actually saw a device recently. It was a treadmill rather than a bike. But I was walking along Hollywood Boulevard, and there was people walking past me, and it literally would track my speed. I could change the gradient, so I could turn Rodeo Drive into a significant gradient, and it would change. Virtually would change in front of me. And the person the salesperson telling me about this amazing kit was saying, "Hey, just imagine you can now walk anywhere in the world, from the comfort of your living room." And again, it sounds incredible. It certainly will probably get you to buy the device, and you probably will have a honeymoon period where you're inviting people to come over. Hey, look at this, try this out. But it's just going to be like most other forms of technology, which will be gathering dust at some point, put into the attic or the loft, and in 20, 30 years, people will go, hey, you still got one of those Peloton bikes? Yeah, have you still got the original box? Hey, you know what? You can make a lot of money at the car boot sale in 2055. Right? That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and I do have some patients that love their Peloton bikes, but these are people that love already to exercise. They already and then now they can go to their spinning class on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then they can use their Peloton the other days. And they have these are people that are very highly motivated already.
Yes, already. And with my recent TED Talk example, I'm kind of talking about the conflict that humans have, whereby at one point in our history, we had no choice in the matter. We had to go out to obtain food. We had to go out to build shelter. We had to go out to ensure that we were in a safe locality. We had no choice. Movement was survival. Now movement is kind of optional. We don't have to move to survive. As I said, we could get food delivered. We can be comfortable. Many of us on the planet at the moment don't have issues with underconsumption or under availability of food, or not having a shelter or protection. So we don't need to move, many of us. And so the odds are stacked against us. Why do I have to move? If I don't feel a problem immediately by not moving, which many of us don't, why would I continue to do so? And the less you move, usually the more comfortable you feel, becoming more and more sedentary. And your body will adjust, your metabolism will adjust, your muscles will atrophy. Your body will adapt to a sedentary individual for quite some time before you start dealing with the consequences of that. So yeah, it sounds pretty dystopian a view and not very positive, but I'm just basing this on recent history. I'm basing this on the latest and greatest of technology and wondering what has the change in behavior been. And at the present day in 2019, we've got more gyms than ever before. We have more exercise programs, fitness programs, different types of programs, an incredible amount of information available to us, more than at any point in human history. But yet we're the most sedentary. We're the less likely to continue a program once we sign up to it than ever before. There's always another distraction, and most of those distractions tend to be sit down and do nothing. Sit down and do something which doesn't involve movement tends to be the distraction, and that's only going to increase in the future. There's only going to be more alternative entertainment opportunities which rely on us being sedentary. So that's the problem. Do we burn calories optionally? We don't really need to, but hey, it's a good thing to do for our health. Or do we just sit and be entertained by all these incredible options available to us, which are only going to become more amazing and enticing as time goes on? So how do we make the reality of the need for movement more enticing than being a spectator?
So, you mentioned the TED Talk. Can you tell us a little bit about that process? How did the whole thing happen? It's a very popular talk, and I'm going to link it on the interview notes. And then, you can tell us a little bit about that damn chair.
Yeah, I got asked a few years ago, actually, and I was kind of told, hey, we're interested in what you do, and maybe one day you could do a talk. And then on this occasion, it was like, would love to do a talk, and I'm like, I would love to do one. When is it going to happen? Probably 2 or 3 years. Really? But anyway, the good news is it was actually you can do it. You'll be able to do it in a few months at the beginning of 2019, and that was just a remarkable experience. So I do love public speaking. I have built up a pretty decent track record, I would say, in public speaking. It's not something that I'm averse to taking part in, but trust me, the pressure, the amount of stress that I put myself under, like thinking about making sure every single word pretty much was the best word at that point in time, and making sure that I can just keep the thread from start to finish, and hopefully entertain the audience, both in it when I was on stage, to those at the time, as well as those who are watching online. So there's all these additional pressures just because it's a TED, talk, as opposed to, say, if I'm speaking at AHS, where I'm fairly relaxed. I'm like, yeah, well, hopefully my slides will be done by.
Hey! I'm part of the board of AHS. You better be nervous whenever you talk about AHS. I'm gonna tell Aaron to just, you know what, that dude Darryl, he's just winging it, man.
It's just far too relaxed and still, hopefully, still delivering the goods. But I suppose there's a difference between that really good short-term elevation of nerves where you're like, okay, I'm focused, I'm ready to perform, I'm ready to do what I need to do, and one where you're having sleepless nights. So it got to the stage where I was literally dreaming my talk over and over and over again, every single word. In a way, it helped because it helped me to memorize, I suppose, what I had to do on the day. But it was a great relief once it was over, and feeling as if I delivered exactly what I wanted to, got the message out that I wanted to. And fortunately, people have been watching. It hasn't just been my mother. So yeah, that's been great as well. It was just, what ideas do I have? How can I get the most important of those ideas communicated in sort of 15 to 18 minutes, and what will be relevant whenever it's listened to? So the video was, the talk was in January, the video went live in April, and hopefully somebody listening in 5 years' time will still see that the core message is relevant at that point in time. So we'll see.
So tell my audience, for those that haven't seen, we talked a little bit about what you talked about, but it's about movement. And what's the thesis, or what's the hypothesis of your talk?
So basically, it talks about the importance of movement, the importance of physical activity for physical and mental health, for adults and for kids. So lots of stats or compelling stats around the health issues, because humans are sedentary, and the chair being a dominant feature of 21st century Homo sapien. And we have a reliance on the chair for many reasons. And so because of this, and because of our environment has changed, humans have never been more sedentary. So that's the problem. We're less active than ever before. What does the 21st century say about what we can do to solve that problem? So conventional fitness isn't really working, because we're becoming more sedentary, even though we have more options available to us. Technology isn't exactly solving the problem. And unfortunately, as parents, many of us are not allowing our children to have the free-ranging, free-roaming childhoods that I was privileged enough to have. So our kids are becoming more sedentary, mainly because of parental over supervision, helicopter parenting, bulldozer parenting. Schools and governments are also controlling this, increase in sedentary living for children who are becoming adults and remaining sedentary. And so that's a huge issue. So then I talk about what the solutions are, which I'll leave to those who will watch the talk. So I highlight 3 areas that we can all be responsible for making a difference. So us as individuals, us as parents, and then finally us as society. What can we do to stem this decline of physical activity, this kind of pandemic of physical inactivity?
And it's funny, because it's such a philosophical question, but it's a philosophical question that needs to be answered, just like global warming, just like the economy and the way that the healthcare system. Everyone agrees that movement or exercise or activity is good for you. But the way that we address it is dramatically different. Some people would say that maybe the answer is to move 30 minutes a day. And other people would say, no, you got to do CrossFit 5 days a week. or no, you have to do long distance running. And the answer is somewhere in the middle. But the camps are so fervent in their beliefs that, there's so much misinformation out there.
For sure. And I mean, it's the same in any area of life, right? There are people going to be passionate about whatever they believe. It's like the same as having a nutrition argument, right? Everyone's going to have an opinion, what's good, what isn't, what's changed their life, what hasn't, what we should be eating, when, how often, how much. And in some respects, it's the same in exercise. What I would say, the benefit of the discussion in exercise is the fact that we have a significantly robust and fairly unambiguous evidence base for physical activity. In a way, I would say the government recommendations for physical activity, the 150 minutes per week minimum of aerobic activity, the 2 days a week of resistance training, is based on a significant body of evidence, which knows that the more sedentary individuals are more likely to die of pretty much any chronic lifestyle disease you can think of. So there's a 50% increase in all-cause mortality if you're sedentary in comparison to a physically active individual. And physical active individual is someone who does the minimum of 150 minutes per week and 2 days a week of resistance training. In terms of how you get that, there are intensities that are prescribed. So it's moderate intensity activity, walking, running, brisk walk, taking part in certain activities, playing tennis, etc., etc., etc. So you can pretty much make up the prescription based on the government recommendations as the bare minimum. And in terms of what's optimal, we also know that it's dose dependent. So the more we tend to do to a point, the healthier you become, the better the health outcomes for those who are dealing with a chronic lifestyle disease, for example. So that's a sort of area that I do like to research and I do like to talk about and inform people that there are ways of having a specific measure that we can apply to ourselves. So whether we like CrossFit or yoga or swimming or Primal Play or whatever it is you enjoy, just make sure you can fit it into this template whereby you're not only enjoying yourself, but you're also making sure you're ticking the boxes, the movement boxes. So it shouldn't all be high intensity. It shouldn't be all be low intensity. It shouldn't all be yoga and flexibility. It shouldn't all be dancing, the two-step or whatever. I don't know. It shouldn't all be dangerous sports. It should be a blend of lots of activities. And just for yourself, just like yourself, if you were talking to somebody about food, you wouldn't tell them just to eat avocados just because avocados are healthy, right? You would say you still need other foods. As healthful as avocados are, they're not enough to supply what your body needs. Let's add some other nutrients. And it's the same with movement. Resistance training, as good as it is not enough for us. Aerobic cardiovascular training, as good as it is, isn't enough. We need resistance training, we need aerobic training, we need flexibility, we need balance, we need mobility, we need speed, stamina, coordination, agility, etc., 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 etc. So once you look at it in that way, and you try to pick and mix from all of that, smorgasbord of movement, that's how you become healthier. That's how movement becomes medicine, because you're getting the right sort of dose and you're getting the right type of movement.
And that's what I found out with this challenge that I'm doing, that I had a lot of blind spots that I was not aware of, because I eat paleo, I take care of myself, I sleep, I have community that I hang out with, and then I lift weights. So I'm taking the exercise part. And the big blind spot is that in between exercise sessions, I was just being a slob. I wasn't moving. I was just not doing any, and that big blind spot is something that I've learned and that hopefully I will change.
That's good. That's really good to hear. And just to inform it for your listeners, there was some interesting research. Well, it's a few areas of research looking at the dangers of sedentary living, incorporating amount of sitting time. So not just looking at the amount of physical activity you partake in, but actually just how much of your day is spent on a chair. And if you're sitting 6 to 8 hours a day, every day, and most people are in the developed world, you need to be doing 60 minutes per day of moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity just to undo the harmful effects of sitting for 6 to 8 hours. So that's also a really important message for people to be aware of. People doing their 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, thinking, oh yeah, I'm doing my exercise thing, it's not making much of a dent in the sedentary time. So you're better off breaking up your day, standing more, walking more, having breaks from sitting is more important than just having your 30-minute or 60-minute end of day workout. So more movement integrated into your day is far more beneficial than single bouts of movement.
You're standing, I'm standing. We've set out our environments to be a little bit more conducive to that. There are things that you can do around your house, having more standing areas where you can work, and then making your sitting areas more uncomfortable, so you're not just melting in there. Yeah. So there are things that you can do, but standing, is not the same as movement, even though it's better than sitting. So we have all of these things that we can do around our environment that can help you incorporate this movement. Like, for example, let's say you have a deck of cards with different movements that you put at the entrance of your house, and every time you walk there through that entrance, you pick a card and you do one of those movements. Doesn't that sound like an awesome idea? But where can we get cards like that?
Yeah, that sounds like a fantastic idea, and I just wish I knew where I could get something like that from. But interestingly, I've just seen something on my table, on my desk in front of me. So yeah, I produced a range of cards based on the Animal Moves book. So a bunch of kind of playing cards, or movement cards probably more appropriately, which allow you to randomize your movement sessions. So whether you want to have a movement snack or a movement break, a couple of minutes where you shuffle a couple of cards and you go, okay, right, this is what I'm going to do next. Or you decide to do something a little bit more, a longer session, a full out kind of exercise session. These cards allow you the option to do so. You can put your smartphone away. You can just focus on being in an environment where you're just going to be moving for whatever period of time that is. And the last version of it is an office-based one. So if you are sitting or standing at a desk for a significant part of your day, these cards will help you do movement patterns that you wouldn't normally do. So most of us might kind of do a bit of stretching or a bit of shuffling when we're standing, but again, it's not enough for us. So if you want some more ideas as to what you can do at your desk, these cards are a great place to start. And I also have a series of articles on incidental movement, or something called HIPAA, which many of your audience probably haven't heard of before. So HIPAA, which is HIIPA, is high intensity incidental physical activity. So it's where you get brief bursts of quite intense movement just doing what you do throughout your day. So you're not thinking about trying to get exercise in or workout in. You're just thinking about, okay, right, I've got 2 or 3 minutes here. What can I do, which is what I was going to be doing anyway, just to get more movement in? How can I make this more vigorous, more challenging? Avoiding the elevator. I'm going to run up the stairs, for example. So there are ways that you can introduce more movement into your life, and it's something that I've been doing for quite a few years, actually. You run out of time at the end of the day, and you go, oh, I'll do my workout tomorrow. Whereas now I'm like, actually, over the day, I spent 25 minutes doing different bits and pieces, and I had no idea, it didn't affect the schedule of my day at all. So there are ways you can become more kind of intelligent about how you structure your day to increase the opportunities for movement.
Yeah, awesome, dude. Thanks for all the work you do, in giving us all these options. Because in the end, if you like CrossFit and that's your jam and that's the only thing you're gonna do, you're gonna do that. But there are a lot of people that don't, and it just so happens that the people that are doing it are very vocal about it. But there's so many people that maybe it's too aggressive or they are hurt and they can't do long distance running, and what you do is just so malleable and anyone can do it. What's the line? The age groups that you try to incorporate.
Yes, 4 to 94.
Yeah.
So I do discriminate slightly, the under fours and the over 94s, but no, movement is for all humans, regardless of our age, regardless of our ability, regardless of any issues that we're dealing with, right? Mental or physical. So again, if you think about movement in this way, then it can embrace everyone. It can be completely inclusive. You don't have to have a particular skill set or physical level of physical literacy. And I think that's something that is also missing sometimes in conventional fitness. You've almost got to get fit enough
in order to
start.
Yeah. It's like
Exactly.
if you're not elite enough, then we don't care about you. So let's get you elite, and then we can start caring about you.
Then you're part of the gang, right? You're part of the cool crowd. And actually, we just need a ramp up process to get more people moving. It's because it's what they should be doing. Movement shouldn't be a hobby. It shouldn't be something that you go, I'm going to build up to this so it can then become part of my life. It can become part of my lifestyle. Movement should just be
part of your life.
It's the same. It should be the same as just breathing, right?
Yeah.
That's what it should be.
Just like eating is part of our, it's something we do.
Yes, we just do, right? And that's what movement should be seen as. It's something that we do, something that we have to do in order to get throughout our day. And so we have to create opportunities because, of course, we don't have the mandatory need for movement as we once did. So now that we don't, it's optional for us. What can I do to make it a little bit more easier, accessible, inclusive, and challenging, sustainable, motivating, etc., etc., etc.
So where can people find you? How can people get a hold of you? We're going to have some links on the show. Where's your next presentation?
You can find me at the best place is at primalplay.com. I have example videos and photos of movements. I have access to my online courses and my products and my books, and also lots of research for those who want to find out a little bit more about my approach and my philosophy. A lot of that is there on my website, primalplay.com. I'm known as the Fitness Explorer. So if you search on most social media platforms, the Fitness Explorer or Fitness Explorer, you'll find me. And finally, in terms of seeing me in person, my next talk is going to be in the UK at the British Society of Lifestyle Medicine. And I'm actually going to be talking about physical activity for the prevention and treatment of cancer. So something I spoke about at AHS. This is an updated version of that talk. And then I'm going to be in the US at AHS talking about active play. So I'm going to be talking about the benefits, the evolutionary requirement for play and why we need it now in the 21st century for kids and for adults.
And you're losing sleep over that one. You are so concerned. You
can tell.
Yeah, I can tell you have all the research and you've been pouring because I remember I'm part of the board and that's what you should be doing, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss all of the deadlines of getting that presentation to you guys, but you'll know I'll deliver it on the day. And
cool
and
as a cucumber.
Yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan.
Awesome, Darryl. So nice having you back, man. I can't wait to see you in San Diego, and I'll talk to you soon, dude.
It's been a real pleasure. Thanks so much for the time and opportunity once again, and to be the first
three-peat,
the triple, yes, the kind of the three-peat, the kind of trilogy of the 30 Strong podcast. I'm kind of happy with that. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks so much, Guillermo.
No problem, dude. I'll talk to you soon.
Cheers. Bye-bye.